Welcome to Quiet Night Chronicles, where we explore the gentle mysteries of human ingenuity. Tonight, we journey into the warm glow of ancient fires, discovering how our ancestors first learned to coax metal from stone using nothing more than clay, patience, and an understanding of fire's transformative power. Imagine walking through your backyard and realizing that beneath your feet lies everything needed to create a furnace capable of reaching temperatures over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This isn't fantasy. It's the remarkable reality our ancestors discovered thousands of years ago. The art of primitive smelting represents one of humanity's most profound technological leaps, transforming us from Stone Age societies into civilizations capable of creating tools, weapons, and art from gleaming metal. The concept of building a primitive smelter connects us directly to our metallurgical heritage. These simple yet ingenious devices were humanity's first steps toward industrial civilization. Archaeological evidence suggests that copper smelting began around 5000 BCE in the Middle East, spreading gradually across trade routes and cultural boundaries. The knowledge was precious, often closely guarded by specialized craftsmen who understood the delicate balance of materials, airflow, and temperature required for success. What makes primitive smelting so fascinating is its elegant simplicity. Unlike modern industrial furnaces, with their complex controls and monitoring systems, ancient smelters relied on fundamental principles of physics and chemistry that remain unchanged today. The basic design, a clay-lined chamber with carefully positioned air holes and a chimney for draft, harnesses natural convection and the combustible properties of charcoal to create an environment where metal ore surrenders its treasures. The significance of this technology cannot be overstated. Before smelting, humans were limited to cold-working native metals found in their pure form, a rare occurrence in nature. The ability to extract copper and later bronze and iron from common ores revolutionized agriculture, warfare, and craftsmanship. It enabled the creation of stronger tools for farming, more effective weapons for protection, and intricate ornaments for trade and ceremony. Creating a functional smelter from scratch presents unique challenges that our ancestors faced with remarkable ingenuity. The first consideration is safety. Working with temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit demands respect and careful planning. Ancient smelters were typically built away from dwellings, often on hillsides where natural breezes could assist with ventilation, and any mishaps wouldn't threaten the community. Sourcing materials requires understanding what makes each component suitable for its purpose. The clay used for construction must have specific properties. It needs to withstand extreme heat without cracking, yet remain workable during construction. Ancient metallurgists discovered that clay with high sand content provided the necessary refractory qualities, while organic materials like grass or straw, added to the mixture, would burn away during firing, leaving beneficial porosity. Charcoal selection represents another critical challenge. Not all wood produces charcoal suitable for smelting. Hardwoods like oak, hickory, and maple create dense, long-burning charcoal with high carbon content, essential for the reduction process that separates metal from ore. The charcoal must burn hot and clean without excessive ash that could interfere with the smelting process. Ore selection and preparation demand both geological knowledge and careful observation. Copper ore appears in various forms: the bright green malachite, the deep blue azurite, and the more subtle copper carbonates that require experienced eyes to identify. Ancient miners learned to recognize the subtle signs that indicated rich deposits, the color of surrounding rock, the presence of certain minerals, and even the taste of nearby water sources. The construction process begins with selecting the perfect location. Ancient smelters were often built into hillsides, taking advantage of natural wind patterns and the Earth's thermal mass. The foundation required careful attention, stones arranged to provide stability while allowing crucial airflow from below. This foundational airflow would prove essential for achieving and maintaining the high temperatures necessary for successful smelting. Building the smelter walls involves mixing clay with organic temper. Materials like chopped grass, small twigs, or even animal dung that would burn away during the first firing, leaving behind a network of small air pockets. These pockets serve multiple purposes. They prevent the clay from cracking during rapid heating, provide insulation to help maintain high temperatures, and create pathways for gases to escape during the smelting process. The tuere, the pipe through which air enters the smelting chamber, represents one of the most ingenious aspects of primitive smelter design. Made from clay and carefully shaped to direct airflow precisely where needed, the tuere must withstand direct contact with the hottest part of the fire, while maintaining its structural integrity. Ancient metallurgists learned to create multiple tuyeres at different heights, allowing them to control the fire's intensity and character. Research into traditional smelting methods reveals fascinating regional variations developed over centuries of refinement. Scandinavian bog iron smelting used locally available iron-rich clay and developed unique chimney designs that maximized draft in their climate. Japanese Tatara furnaces employed teams of workers, operating bellows in carefully choreographed shifts, maintaining consistent airflow for days at a time. African smelting traditions incorporated ritualistic elements, recognizing the almost magical transformation of earth into metal. The internal design of the smelting chamber reflects deep understanding of thermodynamics and chemistry. The bowl-shaped bottom, called the hearth, collects molten metal while allowing slag, the waste products of smelting, to float on top. The narrowing of the chamber as it rises creates a venturi effect, increasing the speed of gases flowing upward and helping to maintain the intense heat necessary for the smelting process. Temperature management in primitive smelters required intuitive understanding of fire behavior that took years to master. Experienced smelters could judge temperature by the color of the flames, the sound of the burning charcoal, and even the smell of the gases emerging from the chimney. They learned to read the fire like a language, adjusting airflow and fuel feed to maintain optimal conditions throughout the lengthy smelting process. Preparation for the first firing involves careful drying of the clay structure over several days. This gradual moisture removal prevents explosive failure when the smelter first encounters high temperatures. Ancient smelters often built small fires around their newly constructed furnaces, slowly warming the clay and driving out residual moisture. This patient approach reflected their understanding that rushing the process could destroy hours of careful work. Loading the smelter requires layering materials in precise proportions. The bottom layer typically consists of charcoal, creating a bed of intense heat. Next comes a mixture of ore and additional charcoal, carefully proportioned to ensure complete reduction of the metal oxides in the ore. Too little charcoal means incomplete smelting. Too much creates excessive slag and wastes precious fuel. Ancient metallurgists developed rules of thumb passed down through generations, refined through countless trials and observations. The moment arrives to light the smelter, the culmination of days or even weeks of preparation. The initial fire must be started gently, allowing the structure to warm gradually, while the tuyeres are blocked to prevent thermal shock. As the clay reaches temperature and begins to glow with its own heat, the tuyeres are opened and bellows applied, transforming the gentle warming fire into a roaring furnace capable of melting stone and metal alike. Watching temperature climb through the color spectrum of heated clay provides a mesmerizing display of physics in action. First comes a dull red glow, then bright cherry red, progressing through orange to the brilliant yellow-white heat necessary for copper smelting. At these temperatures, the smelter becomes a beacon, visible for miles in the darkness, its chimney exhaling a column of sparks that dance upward into the night sky like terrestrial stars, seeking their celestial home. The sound of a smelter at operating temperature creates its own unique symphony. The steady roar of superheated air rushing through the tuyeres mingles with the crackling of burning charcoal and the occasional pop of expanding gases escaping through the clay walls. Experienced smelters learn to interpret these sounds, adjusting their technique based on subtle changes in the furnace's voice that indicated successful or problematic smelting conditions. Maintaining the smelting process requires constant attention and periodic additions of fuel and ore. The intense heat consumes charcoal rapidly, and the chemical reactions occurring within the furnace gradually transform the ore into metal and slag. Ancient smelters worked in teams, taking turns monitoring the fire, operating bellows, and feeding materials into the hungry furnace. This collaborative effort often continued for 12 to 24 hours, depending on the size of the charge and the type of ore being processed. The climactic moment arrives when the smelter reaches the point where metal begins to separate from ore. Through the tuyere openings, occasional glimpses reveal the molten interior, a glowing cavern where solid materials transform into liquid metal and glassy slag. The temperature inside approaches 2200 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt copper completely, while leaving iron-rich materials as semi-solid bloom that can be worked while hot. Signs of successful smelting become apparent to the experienced eye. The color of flames emerging from the chimney shifts subtly as the chemical composition of gases changes. The smell of the exhaust carries distinctive metallic notes that indicate metal oxides are being reduced to pure metal. Most dramatically, the sound of the furnace changes as the growing pool of molten metal affects airflow patterns within the smelting chamber. The first step, the moment when molten metal is released from the smelter, represents the magical transformation from humble earth to gleaming metal. Ancient smelters created temporary clay dams to contain the molten metal, then carefully broke these barriers to allow the liquid metal to flow into prepared molds. The bright orange stream of molten copper, glowing like captured sunlight, gradually cools and solidifies into ingots that will become tools, ornaments, or trade goods. Cooling the smelter reveals the full extent of success or failure. As temperatures drop and the clay structure contracts, careful excavation of the hearth reveals the fruits of the smelting process. Successful smelts yield clean metal ingots with minimal slag inclusions, while less successful attempts might produce metal contaminated with slag or, in worse cases, no metal recovery at all. Each outcome provides valuable lessons for future smelting efforts. Reflecting on this ancient technology reveals profound lessons about human ingenuity and patience. Primitive smelting required mastery of multiple disciplines: geology for ore selection, chemistry for understanding reduction reactions, physics for managing heat flow, and engineering for constructing effective furnaces. Yet this knowledge was acquired through observation, experimentation, and the patient accumulation of wisdom passed between generations. The environmental considerations of ancient smelting practices offer interesting contrasts to modern industrial methods. While primitive smelters consumed significant amounts of wood for charcoal production, their small scale and intermittent operation had minimal environmental impact compared to contemporary industrial smelting. Ancient metallurgists often practiced sustainable forestry, managing woodlands specifically for charcoal production and allowing forests time to regenerate between harvests. Modern attempts to recreate primitive smelting techniques provide valuable insights into our technological heritage, while demonstrating the remarkable effectiveness of these simple systems. Archaeological experiments have successfully produced high-quality metal using reconstructed ancient furnaces, validating the sophistication of prehistoric metallurgical knowledge. These experiments also reveal how much tacit knowledge, skills learned through practice rather than written instruction, was required for successful smelting. The social implications of smelting technology shaped entire civilizations. Communities that mastered metallurgy gained significant advantages in agriculture, warfare, and trade. Metal tools increased agricultural productivity, enabling larger populations and more complex societies. Superior weapons provided military advantages, while metal ornaments and tools became valuable trade goods that connected distant cultures through commercial networks spanning continents. Considering the challenges faced during primitive smelting projects highlights the remarkable persistence and ingenuity of our ancestors. Modern attempts often fail initially due to inadequate temperature control, poor ore preparation, or insufficient understanding of the chemical processes involved. Ancient metallurgists faced these same challenges without the benefit of scientific theory, relying instead on careful observation, methodical experimentation, and the accumulated wisdom of their predecessors. The beauty of primitive smelting lies not just in its practical effectiveness, but in its elegant simplicity. These furnaces represent humanity's first successful attempt to fundamentally alter the physical world through controlled chemical processes. The transformation of ore into metal required understanding principles that wouldn't be formally described by science for thousands of years. Yet ancient metallurgists successfully applied these principles through intuitive understanding gained through patient observation. Success in primitive smelting brings profound satisfaction that transcends mere technical achievement. There's something deeply moving about holding an ingot of metal created using techniques unchanged from those employed by ancient craftsmen. The metal carries within its crystalline structure the same fundamental transformations that enabled human civilization to progress from the Stone Age into the ages of bronze and iron, connecting us directly to the long chain of human technological development. Learning about primitive smelting reveals how much we can accomplish with simple materials and careful observation. In our age of complex technology, these ancient techniques remind us that fundamental principles of physics and chemistry can be harnessed effectively using tools and materials available to anyone willing to invest the time and effort required for mastery. This accessibility makes primitive smelting an excellent introduction to metallurgical principles and a rewarding practical skill. The meditative aspects of smelting work provide unexpected benefits beyond technical knowledge. The long hours spent tending the fire, monitoring temperatures, and managing airflow create a contemplative rhythm that connects practitioners to the patient, careful work of countless generations of metallurgists. This connection to historical tradition adds meaning and depth to what might otherwise be simply a technical exercise. As we conclude this gentle journey through the world of primitive smelting, we're left with deep appreciation for the ingenuity and persistence of our ancestors. The patient development of metallurgical techniques laid the foundation for all subsequent technological advancement. From the first copper ornaments, hammered from native metal, to the complex alloys enabling modern space exploration, the principles discovered by ancient smelters continue to shape our world. The knowledge preserved in primitive smelting techniques offers valuable lessons for modern sustainability and appropriate technology. These methods demonstrate how sophisticated results can be achieved using locally available materials and renewable energy sources. As we face contemporary challenges of resource depletion and environmental protection, ancient wisdom about working with natural materials and processes becomes increasingly relevant. If you found this peaceful journey through ancient metallurgy enlightening, consider subscribing to Quiet Night Chronicles for more gentle explorations of human ingenuity and natural processes. Perhaps you'll be inspired to learn more about traditional crafts. Or maybe you'll find yourself curious about other ways our ancestors transformed raw materials into the tools and treasures that built civilization. Until next time, sleep well and dream of the gentle fires that lit humanity's path from stone to metal.